Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Oisms and welcome to the very first deck tech on this channel. If you guys ever want to see another deck tech of a deck I already made or you want me to build a deck, make sure you comment down below because I will try to make it and you will be able to see what I think on how the commander should be built around. This very first deck tech, if you didn't see the title, is on Valki, God of Lies. Mainly Tibalt, a Cosmic Impostor on the backside, but Valki, God of Lies will be considered the commander. It is a 1 in a black legendary creature god. When Valki enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. It has an ability of X, choose a creature card exiled with Valki with converted mana cost X. Valki becomes a copy of that card and it's a 2/1. While I don't think Valki is a very good card in Commander, in Standard or Modern. I think it might see a little bit of play, but I definitely don't think it's strong enough for Commander, especially when you have a Lazav, which I think this does it a better job. But let's say you want it in Rakdos, maybe. But that's why the backside of this card is the Commander we're going to be focusing on. And that is Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. 5 black red, so in Rakdos. As Tibalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with you may play cards exiled with Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. And you may spend mana as though they were mana of any color to cast those spells. So overall, just a good ability, and it really synergizes the rest of his kit, which is a +2 exile top card of each player's library, which I read this as +2 draw 4 cards. Since you can play those cards, so that means if you exile lands from your opponent's library, you can still play them. And then if it doesn't matter, but that's considered a card advantage either way. Then if they have anything you want to cast, you can easily do that, so it's still a draw 4. It might not fit with your strategy, but you can cast it, it's resource denial, and you might have some things that will just synergize well. It's -3, has exile target artifact or creature. So if someone has a really good creature like a Vorinclex out, you can easily exile the creature, and you can be able to play it on your own, and then you will have that same dominion over all of the other players as that player once had. Though it is -3, I think you're mainly going to be wanting to +2 it since it's so much strong. The -3 is like a failed safe. And then there's the -8, exile all cards from all graveyards, add red, red, red. I think this is not as important of an ability, and you mainly want to do it if someone's a graveyard deck. They already have a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, so you can exile it, cast it. But mainly, most of the time, you want to just keep plussing it up to. Even once you get up to 8, just keep bumping it up. And then next thing we're going to focus on is the land base. We are in Rakdos, but that does not mean we don't have any bad lands. We have the Urborg and Cabal Coffers combo, which does synergize well in any black deck, and I think it probably should be, since it can generate us a bunch of mana, which we will need since we're going to be casting our opponent's spells, and sometimes it may be big, sometimes it may be little. But we also have things like Maze of Ith in the deck, just to slow down our opponents. With Tibalt being a Planeswalker, and Tibalt's a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Tibalt being a Planeswalker, it's going to be attacked at by 4 players. You need to be able to at least try to stop it before it can even hit Planeswalker, just to give him a bit of protection so he does not protect himself. This deck has a total of 37 lands. Well, 36 if you don't count Maze of Ith, which may seem low, but we have more than enough ramp within the deck to cover our average converted mana cost, which is around 3.41. And so we should be just fine. Some of the ramp cards that we should be focusing on that are in the deck are some very, very common cards, like Wayfarer's Bauble, which just, though yes it has gone up in price because of Commander's Quarters making such a large pressure on it, this isn't a budget deck, and it's just a good card since we are in Rakdos. We don't have a lot of land ramp. Well, this is basically our only land ramp, really. We have cards like Rakdos Signet. Artifact gives us ramp, perfect. Gilded Lotus, yes, very expensive mana rock, but since we need so much mana to constantly be playing our opponent's spells each turn, as well as our own, on top of that, we will need larger mana rocks like this. More cards is just like Soul Ring, perfect card in any deck. Everyone knows that this is broken. Darkside Extortionist needs to be reprinted. I can never stress that enough. It's good late game, it's good early game. It's never going to be bad. And then Horizon Stone. Yes, this is a new card, and it may not seem that good. Horizon Stone is a 5 mana artifact. if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. We have 17 sources of ramp in this deck. We're going to have so much mana that will just get sucked into Horizon Stone at some point. And since Tibalt does not care about color, we could just play every card from Tibalt with the mana held in Horizon Stone. So this is absolutely perfect for our game plan and our theme, since Tibalt will be our main card draw engine. But continuing on, we're going to be looking at how we're going to protect Tibalt, because Tibalt is a planeswalker, we need lots of removal. And in total, we have the new Fetus Swarm, which just enchantment removal and Blackbird is just perfect. We also have a new, this is the underrated card I believe, is Settle the Score. People, I don't think, play this card just because it is a bit overcosted. 4 mana, exile target creature, put 2 loyalty counters on a planeswalker you control. Now, with Tibalt, it's not that important to hit your ultimate, but I think it's still good enough since you want to keep Tibalt beefed up so he can take some hits and still be able to be an active engine. But since we have so much ramp, even if he does get removed, you could easily play him back out from your command zone. Don't have to worry about it. We also have Terminate as a staple in Rakdos. And we have a total, I'd like to say, of 8 single target removal in this deck, which is a lot, but it's necessary as a planeswalker, as our commander. Then we have some easy board wipes with Damnation, classic, Blasphemous Act, classic, and then we have Toxic Lose, all just the best board wipes we can get within Rakdos. And since we don't have a bunch of creatures in this deck, but we just need something to protect our commander once he gets out there. So moving on, let's say we can never get Tibalt to really stick, and then that we don't really have a card draw engine or card advantage engine. We have multiple ways to get around that throughout the deck with new cards such as Jessica's Will, which is absolutely perfect in any red deck since it does replace itself when it comes to mana, and it replaces itself when it comes to card draw, even though it is Impulse, you have to play it that turn. Looking at 3 cards for essentially 0 mana, since you can get that mana back and possibly even net more, is absolutely perfect. This card is absolutely bonkers in any red deck, I think. And then we have Erebos, God of the Dead, which since we're generating so much mana with our 17 sources of ramp, it's super easy to start dumping mana into him to start drawing cards. And paying 2 life doesn't really matter since it is commander, we start with 40 life. And we also have a card like Court of Ambition, which I will admit can easily be switched out if you don't like this card, since it is pretty hard to maintain the Monarch in this deck if we don't have a high creature count to be swinging and attacking the Monarch and stealing it back. But I believe that I wanted to give this card a try, and I think it does have potential to be the makings of a really good card. So if you want to switch something out, this would be the card to do. And because there are a few others that you can take out, but I think this would probably be the main one you want to focus on. Now, once we start drawing cards, we start playing our opponent's deck from Tibalt's ability. We're going to want to be doing that without Tibalt, just things that can play our opponent's deck without Tibalt necessarily being in play. Let's say he's removed, we don't have enough mana to play it, we still want to be able to do what our deck wants to do. So cards like Stolen Strategy basically gives us a trigger of Tibalt's +2 at the beginning of every upkeep, which can ramp up very quickly. And we have Itali Primal Storm, which gives us that trigger when it attacks, and we don't even have to cast those spells, which just makes it even better. Or cards like Opposition Agent. I know this card is very, very hated within Commander for its power level, but it fits our theme too well to not even be included. Since we're able to search our opponent's library, we can just find whatever their best thing is and cast it, and that's what our whole deck's about, playing our opponent's deck. And if we can find the best thing in there, we should absolutely do it. Other cards that fit that is Lord of the Void. Though, yes, very expensive. We have a bunch of ramps, so it doesn't necessarily matter. It's able to find creature cards from our opponent's library and play them. Easy as that. Gonsi, Lord of Luxury. The previous commander, I'd say, to this style of deck of playing your opponent's library or any spell that they have, which is just an absolutely must include. And then Insurrection. Yes, we do have a bunch of board wipes, sitting at 7 board wipes total. Just being able to take all the creatures and swinging them, let's say we never draw a board, this could just end the game for us if that ever comes to it. Another cards that kind of want to end the game if you need to, since we have so much mana, is Exsanguinate and Torment of Hailfire. Just casting them for tons of mana can just end the game like that, and you'll be gaining so much life from Exsanguinate. Let's say you're a little low, it's just a good thing to have as some life gain. And overall, I'd like to say Tibalt was a really fun deck to play. May not be as competitive as some people want. It's definitely more on the casual side, but this was absolutely the one commander I saw that I said, yes, I have to build a deck on it, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad to see Tibalt finally getting a card that isn't like the original Tibalt. Warriors Perk Tibalt was okay, but I think this one finally sets him in. I'm glad he's having a main role within the Kaldheim lore. Well, anyway, this is the wrap up of the deck tech. Post in the comments for any recommendations you think could be added or removed. You can check out the tapped out link in the description if you want to. And remember, post in the comments if you want me to build a commander deck or show off one of my previous commander decks. I can talk about them and what my thought process was. Since I do have them in person, they are a bit more budgeted, so definitely if you want to go look for a budget deck, those are the decks you want to focus on. But anyway, hope you enjoy the build, and I'll see you next time.